All right, we are back on MorningLine. Thank you for joining us. As you see on the screen there, it says property tax relief programs, things to help you pay. Jessica Davey and Andrea Vaughn, both with us. They're with Metro, and they're experts on these types of tax, relief programs. Thanks for coming on this morning. And we can take some calls, as I told you. We may get a few, and it usually gets busy later in the show, but I think a lot of people may be just paying attention, taking notes here. But if you have a specific question, give a call. I mean, it is really true. It's crazy. You guys probably have more you're dealing with than any other county in the state, simply because I just think about the prototypical case of an elderly couple that perhaps bought a home in Green Hills 40 years ago. Yeah. And back then, I'm sure it was a nice neighborhood, and they paid a pretty penny for it. That same home is probably worth 5 times what it was, if even more. And over the years, they've probably seen the increases. Right. But then over just the last 4, some of those. And how, when they are on a fixed income, can they keep up with the value of their home? And I hate the thought of some of these people that are very comfortable being forced to sell. Is that kind of what some of this relief is, to say, hey, look, you can still afford to pay your taxes and stay in your home?
Yes, I think, the tax freeze is great, because even when we have a reappraisal cycle and the taxes may go up, you can know if you qualify, you're not going to see that increase. Right. And, we were talking about people who budget. You have X amount of dollars that has to go towards your taxes every year, and if that's going to stay the same, that sort of helps you budget from year to year. Whereas if you had a huge increase, that may just blow your budget right out of the water. Sure. So the tax freeze is great for that. It can keep your taxes the same, and that's for the 65 and older. Right. And then the tax relief can be in addition to that for the 65 and older to actually help pay the taxes. Up to $700 depending on where you live, and that's that can be a big help to people. And then also for the disabled and the disabled veterans. How many people did you say are already taking advantage of it that you know of? On in Metro, right? And on tax relief, we have about 6,500. Wow, that's great. I mean, that for people can be a big chunk of change. And just to remind you folks, if you're joining us, and we'll take calls here, they're Metro, but again, as you told us, it's a state administrated program. Correct. So every other county in the state does this same type of thing. Though we should say Metro, because probably the property values are so high, you guys double what the state does, right? That's right. No, now other counties may not do that, but you guys actually do double, meaning so when you say 700, in another county it may be 350. Right, right. Yeah. So in our county, the state gives 185 for one tax district and 212 for another. Okay. So that's the state portion, and then Metro gives beyond that. Well, that's more than double. It is actually this year a little more than double. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, that makes sense to me because of what Metro is and how expensive it is here. Let's take a few phone calls, and if people have general questions or something specific, take advantage of this. And if it doesn't help you, call a friend and say, call in the MorningLine, because right now this could help you out. Let's go to Jean. Hi, Jean.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Good morning.
Good morning. I have a question.
Yes.
And my question is this. My husband and I are both senior citizens over the age of 65. However, we still have a mortgage. Now, with that being said, could we still qualify for this program?
Whether you have a mortgage or not doesn't really matter, does it? No, that's a great question. We have a lot of our tax relief applicants who still have a mortgage. Yeah. And that does not matter. No. Your mortgage, if they pay your taxes, they would continue to pay your taxes, and then if you qualify for tax relief, you would actually get a refund check after your tax relief application is approved. Okay. If you have a mortgage but they don't pay your taxes, you still pay them directly to our office yourself, then you're just like any other applicant. So. Yeah, so Jean, that mortgage doesn't affect you. Do you think you meet the qualifications for some of the relief?
Well, my husband and I did we came to the office, went to the office to try to see if we could qualify for the relief, and it was sort of mind-boggling because our income, they said our income was too much, but I could never figure out why we didn't meet the income guideline that they said we needed to meet in order to qualify.
Okay, yeah, because I guess your income would be, for the freeze, 41,000 or so, and for the relief would be 29,180. Yeah, but when we talk about income, and apparently they provided documentation, they either meet it or they don't. Right. Income is what? Would that be Social Security, if you're collecting on a 401k or a Roth? Obviously, if you're still doing some kind of work,
right?
So, investment money counts, all sources,
right? Income from all sources,
whatever income you have, gift from a friend, whatever.
No, we don't count gift money.
So, if your son gives you $10,000,
well, it's a gift. I mean, if it's on the person's tax return, we have to.
Right.
Okay.
Essentially, if they have to report it to the IRS as income, then we have to count it.
Okay, it's interesting. Now, a Roth IRA, you don't report as income.
Right.
So that would not be in the mix. You could be drawing quite a bit on a Roth, but you've already paid taxes on it. And so that technically would not be something that would be taken into account for the relief, would it?
That's correct.
That's interesting.
And I will say that the income levels are adjusted each year. So, you know, maybe she didn't qualify before because the income level was different. But it wouldn't hurt to try again. And currently, because we are collecting 2017 taxes, even though it's 2018, we're still collecting 2017 taxes. So we're using 2016 income.
Okay.
And that can make a difference too.
Things can change.
Things
Absolutely.
change. So just because you didn't get approved one year doesn't mean you won't another. So
yeah, and we have some of them that come in and, oh, I worked that year. I still had income from my job. But next year I'll only have my Social Security. Yeah. Okay, then you come back and see us next year and we'll see what we can do for you.
Absolutely. When they come in, do they need to bring their tax forms, or just what's the proof they need to bring with for them?
They need to bring, if they filed an income tax return, they need to bring their 2016 tax return with all the attachments.
If you didn't file a tax return,
okay, then still, if they have their 1099s or
bring those in.
Because
I was going to say, some people, I mean, even citizens out there that are only collecting Social Security get something in the mail. They may not file, but as long as you have those documents, bring them in. And by the way, you mentioned Social. I'm telling you, if your primary source of income is Social Security, you qualify. Sorry.
Yeah.
No one's getting rich on Social Security. If that's all you're living on, you qualify. Yeah. Now, there may be a rare exception once or twice there, but I think the maximum you can get from Social Security, if you're Bill Gates, is less than $3,000 a month anyway. So I'm just saying, keep that in mind. I know there's folks out there dealing and living just with and now, this does not apply, obviously, to folks who are living, or renting, rather.
Correct.
Right? Or does it? Okay. Is there any way, because you know as well as I do, your rent is paying for the property tax for the owner of that building.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they build that in, but there isn't any way. I just want to throw that out there. I think that's always been that way, right?
Yes.
You cannot recoup any money from your rent by saying, well, you know, 10% of that's paying property tax.
No, you have to own the property, live on it as your primary residence.
Good basic thing to throw out there, you know?
And another thing on the income, even though the IRS doesn't count a VA pension, our program does count the VA money. Not for the vets themselves, but the elderly or the disabled that do collect VA money. Good.
All right. Well, I would just say to Jean, if that was 4 years ago, go in, take another shot at it, bring the documents. But the bottom line is, if you're making more than $29,180, no relief there, or no freeze over $41,000. Let's go next to Sandra. Hi, Sandra.
Hello.
Hi. How can we help you?
What I wanted to know is, I'm disabled and my taxes have been paid for quite a few years. And what I wanted to know is, if I were to sell my house, do I have to pay all those taxes back?
So are you already on the tax relief program? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. No, actually, you don't have to pay back. So that's a good question. For tax relief, when you get the assistance to help pay your taxes, it's not a loan.
No, that's that time. It's done. It's gone. And meaning that if the next year she sells the house and moves on, it's not like you owe. Yeah, that's a good question. You're very sweet to even ask that question, but no way. I mean, because you're getting that relief for that year, for that time, for that moment in time.
Right.
And if you choose to sell and move on, you're not getting a loan here, ma'am. That's your money that they're helping you out with that you pay one time, correct?
That's correct.
Does that sound good, Sandra?
Yes, it does. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, and that's, you know what, good question from her. I mean, that's interesting. People think,
well,
well,
they do, and then they come in and they say, well, my neighbor said that I have to pay all this back. And it's like,
Nope.
No, you don't.
Yeah, it's essentially a grant.
I'd hate to think that, yes, I'd hate to think that someone, you know, because of nosy neighbor or something, doesn't apply for a benefit that they can use because they're worried about that or something along those lines. So anyway, that's a great question. Let's go to Jack. Hi, Jack.
Yeah, my point is not quite exactly about relief, but I went through a reassessment last year.
Okay.
And I had refinanced my house, so I had a current assessment, you know, a commercial property valuation done, which was lower fairly substantially than their assessment.
Yeah.
I filed an appeal and went down there, and I was told in the meeting, I thought, but apparently not, that because I had the commercial assessment, they made copies of all that, that you would, you know, there'd be some adjustment. And then I get a letter in the mail saying, no, there is no adjustment. You've been denied.
After they told you there would be?
Yes.
Interesting. All right. You know, I'm sure he's not the only one dealing with that. Now, of course, a lot of people may disagree with the assessment like he did and appeal it, and it sounded like he had documentation. Can you comment a bit about how that plays out and maybe what happened in his case here?
Well, so the reassessment is done by the Metro Assessor's Office, and we're from the Metro Trustee's Office.
I understand.
So, you know, two separate offices, but we do work very closely together.
Yeah, I just thought maybe you can give him some insight.
You know, the Assessor's Office does do the reappraisal every 4 years, and they do have a time period within which you can appeal. And they have a Metro Board of Equalization that hears those appeals, and then if they make an adjustment, they send our office the documentation to adjust the value, which in turn, you know, changes the taxes.
So what he's saying is that maybe he met with them, they told him that they would maybe do the reassessment, but whatever reason, what they ended up sending you was not an adjustment. Either they revisited it or it was a mistake.
Right, yeah, and we can certainly take a look at that. You know, if he feels like he was supposed to have an adjustment in his value or, you know, and didn't get it, we'll be glad to take a look at that.
Does that make sense? Have you pushed it to that point where you said, wait, maybe it was a mistake, or are you under the impression they just changed their mind and said you didn't really qualify, they're sticking with their assessment?
Well, it just didn't make any sense the way it unfolded. I mean, like I said, I went in and met with them. There was two women, I can't, you know, I don't remember their names or anything.
Sure.
I had with me a copy of my assessment, which had been done literally, I believe it was even after, so like 4 or 5 months after they had done their work, and still I was, you know, $20,000 lower, whatever the exact number was. And so they looked at all this and said, yes, you essentially proved your case and blah, blah, blah. And again, I'm paraphrasing because this was last year. I don't remember the exact language, so I don't want to, you know, misrepresent exactly what they said. But, you know, at the end of the day, I got a letter just saying I was denied and no further explanation. They said, well, then you can go file an appeal with the state. And I'm like, why would I do that? I just went through all this.
And that's frustrating. Red tape.
Yes, I have a legitimate case, and you have all the documentation. And then they still blew me off. So, no, I wouldn't have wasted my time.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for it. Welcome to bureaucracy, I guess. And he already feels as though he's wasted some time. But I suppose if he feels strongly enough, and we don't know how much money he's talking about, I guess he said his next venue is to appeal to the state. Or could he call your office and say, look, this is what it was, this is what they told me. Can you call back there and see if maybe they just forgot about the meeting where they told me they were going to assess it? I don't know if it works that way.
Well, we had, I think, somewhere between 600 and 700 corrections from the assessor's office after the Metro Board hearings. Okay. So we got a whole bunch from them where they, you know, made an adjustment.
They did make, but not in his case for some reason.
We'll certainly, you know, reach out to the assessor's office on his behalf if he has some questions.
If he chooses to reach out. I mean, if it's easy enough to make, I don't know. I know you guys are busy and you hear from a lot, but if you could call over there and say, well, we've got Jack here and this is what he told us. Just want to see, can you pull his record? Here's his name, number. He'll help you out with that. And then, did we miss something here that you changed your mind, or is this something we should give him the benefit of? I don't know, Jack, if you want to keep pursuing it and how much money it is, but I don't blame you for wondering. And you've come this far. If it saves you money, why not? Listen, let's take a break. When we come back, we will take more phone calls, and we'll let you know how to contact them in case Jack or others need to make that phone call. We'll be back right after this.